Have you ever wondered what the actual legal language is around using other people's pictures and other people's music? You hear about it all the time, and sometimes we use our own stuff. Should we brand it? Should we not? Find out all this and more coming up next. I'm Eric Mitchell, and this is To The Point. Have you ever had questions about how to start your business, like the legal side of it, like how to do your agreements, not copying, pasting everything, but an actual agreement that you should use for like contracts, how to set up your business the right way? Or have you ever used somebody's picture without their permission? We've all messed around online, but have you ever done that? Well, you probably shouldn't, number one, but our guest today is here to tell you why you should protect your own content and how to protect your own content to make it yours, to make sure other people aren't using it, and how to make sure you're protected if you are using those stock photos that you see everywhere. So let's get to the point with my good friend and amazing attorney, Rachel Brenke.
Lifeflip Media, the voice of the warrior class. Are you a veteran or patriotic business owner, author, musician, public speaker, or entrepreneur? Are you ready to take the next step towards success? Then look no further than Lifeflip Media, the voice of the warrior class. Lifeflip Media is the #1 veteran-owned PR firm in America. We use our mission-oriented approach to secure advertising and media exposure for your business, your brand, and your products. It's time to let Lifeflip Media put you on the cutting edge of success. Lifeflip Media, the voice of the warrior class.
Welcome to the show, Rachel. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
It's another great day to be alive during COVID-19.
Loaded question, I know.
How am I doing? Where do I start? COVID-19, Black Lives Matter, election 2020. It's like, I don't know where to go with the answer to that question, but good. How about yourself?
Doing good. Hoping that this will eventually all go away. We can get back to new normal, get out of these unprecedented times.
I'd love to get out of unprecedented times and get back to... But what is the new... Let me ask you. So obviously your background is in law, but you are quite entertaining on social media. If you guys don't follow Rachel on TikTok, it's worth it. I think you're like the only... Okay, you are, in my world, you're the only attorney I know who's on TikTok. And you throw a lot of smoke, and I gotta tell you, I love it, because I'm like... I ended up on there, and my family makes fun of me because some people want me to have TikTok, some people don't. And it's more, they don't want me not to have it because of, it's bad. No, it's more because it's a time suck where I'll be like, what is Bruce Willis doing today? I'm curious. What's Wayne Brady doing? What's Rachel Brenke doing today? Oh, look, that's funny as shit, because it's just like sitting there holding papers. I'm like, damn, she's throwing shade on TikTok at other attorneys. Strong. The game is strong there. So where's the line with how people basically go from here in COVID-19, right? How do we keep businesses going strong with all this verbal hate out there? As somebody who works in law, you see a lot of hate on social, and brands I see chiming back in, and people who work for brands. We've seen tech company CEOs say some stupid stuff lately and forget that social media keeps it A, forever, and B, it's social media and we'll find it. Keywords are amazing. So how do businesses and brands kind of stay safe from running their mouth and facing the negative PR of running their mouth on social?
I think the biggest thing is, well, first, we have to recognize when social media first came out, we were still kind of in the societal norms of that you don't air your dirty laundry. Then obviously social media has unraveled all of that. But before, it was really strong to not inject into your business. And actually, Ben & Jerry's is one of those that has been on the front runner of always injecting their convictions and their beliefs into their business. I mean, all over, even now. Absolutely love following them. So now it is more accepted for us to be able to air, quote unquote, dirty laundry, put out your political affiliations, things that you stand for, things that you stand against. Obviously, there's going to be repercussions from either side. I think that is kind of the big thing to think about is no matter where you fall on any of the topics, and you put it out there, you're going to get negative comments. I mean, you're talking about my TikToks. That's something benign. And I still have people making nasty, rude comments on there. It's like social media thinks that is the gateway to the world because you're in your mom's basement somewhere. Well, we're all in our basement somewhere in quarantine, so that's not really a slam. I mean, but we're all like sheltered. And now even more so, people are feeling the stress, economic issues, career issues. People are worrying about next paychecks. Are they going to have a career anymore, etc. The stress is building up. So just recognize, yes, put it out there. Make sure that you can also deal with the blowback of consequences and understand right now, a lot of sensitivities, a lot of heightened emotions just based on the construct of everything that's going on. So you're going to see even a heightened backlash or heightened support too. I've been front running with my face on all my brands for over a decade. And I was in that very beginning of social media. But I'm not going to talk about my own personal convictions as far as when it came to those type of topics. I decided this year, screw it. I don't have anything else to do. I'm sitting at home during COVID. Let's just throw it out there and see what happens. And I've received some nasty negative feedback because of my beliefs, but I've also received immense outpouring from my audience and new audience members who hopefully will turn into clients and customers because they like that connection. They like knowing where I stand.
And I think I love that you make that point because that's true, because I think I fit in that same boat with you where, yes, I'm in PR, yes, I do TV, but I never really put my viewpoint publicly out. Like, I'm completely against a certain someone who sits in the White House. And I never made that perfectly clear because I didn't want to feel, because you see the backlash and you hear the threats, oh, you'll lose customers. Well, part of it, we had a sit down within the company and we all were like, but our morals say this is our mission. So if we lose people because we say we're not going to deal with El Señor Cheeto, then we're fine with that and we'll move on. That's our nickname for him. We have a lot of names. Orange Clown, I use that emoji all the time of an orange and a clown. That is my gift to social media, is that emoji when I describe the president. It's easier. And a lot of his followers haven't picked up on it yet. They're like, he really has
I'm like, oh.
He now has something against oranges and clowns. Yes, I do. I'm angry about oranges and clowns. Racist oranges and clowns. That's where we're at. But it is interesting that you bring that up because a lot of people, and your social game is good. I mean, so let's talk about negativity. We both see it on our social, especially on Twitter. Certain people's fanboys love to come after those of us who say anything negative. I mean, I even got attacked when I posted stuff about Vanessa Guillen, which was shocking, but I was told that she was AWOL because that's what they deemed the other soldier who 2 days before he was to get out of the army decided to go AWOL. And strangely was found while looking for Vanessa, they found him in a shallow grave covered with cement. Because when you're going to go AWOL, you do it 2 days before you're going to get honorably discharged from the army.
You bury yourself in cement.
You kill yourself, then you bury yourself and pour cement over to cover your tracks. Because that makes sense, right? Because this is what we're doing. So how do you handle your trolls? Do you even engage with them? I know there's a whole bunch of theories of thought. Guy Kawasaki has famously said he engages 3 times and then he's done. What's your kind of rule of thumb?
So one of the things, going back to TikTok, and this is on a more of just a superficial level. It's not really getting into deep about my personal beliefs and convictions that I put out there, but I've had people make nasty comments about me physically, about the fact that I have 5 kids. And one of the things I love about TikTok is that you can reply to a comment and it creates a whole new video. It shows that person's comment in the upper hand corner with their handle, username, whatever TikTok calls it. And so you can reply to it. So I've done that a couple of times with a couple of people, and they'll often write something nasty below, but I I engage once and that's it. I don't even go 3 times unless we're having a good conversation. Maybe you're able to change their perspective. Maybe they decide to backpedal or whatever. It's interesting. You mentioned earlier about negative publicity. Well, negative publicity can bring positive publicity because the louder that someone gets about a brand, for it or against it, draws attention to it. So think about it. You've got different levels of how you're doing outreach and reaction. You're going to put out a message. You get potential backlash or trolling. How you respond to that is really going to make the mark for how people then perceive your brand. Because I think most people support and believe that not everyone's going to fall in the same political affiliations, same religious beliefs, whatever it is that you want to pick. But if you notice, the bad PR that skyrockets, that doesn't always come back with good PR then, is because of how they handle the situation after they're called out for their initial position.
Very, very true on that. That is funny that you bring that up because that's true. People always seem to change their positions as they go. But TikTok's an interesting one. So let's talk about that legally. We keep hearing on the news, come on, you're an attorney. I got to ask you this question.
I know.
It's my number one question. I just ended up in a great webinar because I love seeing, like, you're kind of, honestly, it's weird when random people drive you to go, I wonder if I should use that. I saw you using it for your business. I love the way that you've built your brand and you're the face of your brand, which is outstanding. We always preach about it. And I was like, I've always gone off of, like, Ted Rubin famously said at a conference that you should only do the social at, like, where your audience is at. And I'm like, okay, I know my audience is on Twitter. I know they're Facebook. They're clearly on YouTube because all of them are awesome and they subscribe and we love them for it. But, like, TikTok's that new world. But then I see you on there and the Marine rapper who, he's just, he just has fun on there and he deals with trolls too. And lots of our guests use it. And I'm like, that's a good idea. But now I went on a webinar that Owen Him-Smith and a whole bunch of, like, TikTok influencers who have lots of TikTok followers. And I asked the question, I said, hey, so I keep hearing from the Trump administration they want to ban TikTok because some reason the Chinese are going to infiltrate our TikTok. I don't know what they're going to do to you or Owen or anyone else who I don't believe is, like, has access to anything that's like launch codes, but apparently they could infiltrate all of those systems. So do you think TikTok will actually get banned here? And can they really ban a platform for us? I mean, doesn't that violate the First Amendment or something around that, Ryan?
Yeah, so it is interesting that a lot of restrictions can be placed on things when it comes to national security and cybersecurity policies. I mean, you think about why many times that laws go into effect, it's because it's for the greater good, right? You're trying to prevent the worst. So yes, I can see that it being banned. My thing with TikTok that I absolutely love about is that it's provided me a platform that suits my personality, which is, I've always done podcasting and videos and obviously stills and videos on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, but none of it has really ever fit my personality and my humor the way that TikTok does. So if they do get rid of it, disappointed. However, and maybe I shouldn't put this out here, maybe I should rush to do this first. I've been saying it multiple times to my husband. He's in cybersecurity. And I said, someone just needs to build a US-based TikTok. And he's like, well, go do it. And I'm like, sure, in my spare time with our 5 kids at home, during sheltering in place, I'll get right on it. But really, I think you'll just see something else pop up. Yeah. To touch on the point of what you said about you wouldn't necessarily jumped into TikTok. Myself with my MBA, taking an analytical approach to things, I would not have run to TikTok if I had done my whole research of it, because I don't really truly believe that my potential audience is there. There are some, it's starting to pick up traction now, which like any platform, you have to do that. But really what I have loved is I know where my audience is. And I have been pulling the videos. So I've just been using TikTok really as the creation tool and pulling the videos from there and posting it on other platforms to help educate and to reinforce my brand awareness.
That's awesome. Have you seen, and this is just pure curiosity, have you seen an uptick in traffic to, like, your podcast, which is awesome, by the way? Have you seen any driving traffic that way? Has that actually seen an increase?
What's interesting is we actually have seen an explosion in inquiries to the law firm, and which is so interesting because I haven't really hardcore pushed this. I've just put it into my normal marketing, just put it into my rotation and sharing on Instagram and Facebook, a little on Twitter, but it's a weird platform, so the video doesn't really fit. fully. But yeah, so I have seen an uptick in that. Do I think it'll be over the long term? No, but what I've also really enjoyed is that while it may not have brought necessarily new clients, it is bolstering and connecting with my existing clients and customers. So they're really enjoying that, which only increases their buyers' confidence to buy into me, emotionally and financially later on down the road. So it's kind of a two streets, I guess you can look at here. So I hope that we keep getting new people, but I definitely really love it more for just the entertainment, educational value for my existing audience now.
I love that. That's a good. I was just curious how that worked, because I'm like, okay, do I want to dabble in it? Because getting ready to take a little hiatus here on the show for a few days here in like a week or two. As we go into our summer hiatus, and we had rules. We had to hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube before we would do that. So we're almost there. We will do it this week, so we're excited. But that's it. So that brings up an interesting thing, because I know what I pay attention to, what you talk about a lot, is copyright infringement, which seems to be a big issue, and trademarking, which is another big issue. I see it a lot on the argument of stock photos. A lot of us are building creation. I'll blame Gary Vee for this, as he wants everybody to go create content. And some of us, obviously, we use our own. Yours, obviously, is clearly you. Everything you ever see of To The Point or anything Lifeflip Media is always something we've produced in-house. That's ours. But a lot of people, they go get stock photos, or they use stock photos, or they go take photos, and they fail to watermark it, but it's their photo. It's kind of like Adobe stock or anybody else. Like Adobe makes a pretty penny. It's like $20 to get 10 photos a month. They're great photos, by the way, and not knocking Adobe as a shareholder. I tell you, Adobe's great, but just making sure Adobe don't sabotage my gear. All of a sudden, Premiere stops working, and I'm like, we don't make video anymore. So always got to be nice to those. And Canva, we like you too, even though we don't use you, we still like you. But tell us a little bit about this. So should you be slapping a watermark on every photo you put out? And it doesn't have to be bold. I'm not saying NASCAR, but should you have an @ or, how do you even get started in that process, and why should you?
Okay, so well, first of all, this is United States-based information, and I do a lot of copyright trademark. It's all primarily federal-based. There are state trademarks, but we're not even going to discuss any of that. As far as the copyright aspect, and since I work with a lot of small business owners, I understand two sides of this. One, you may have a lower budget, you can't go out and hire someone, or you don't have the capabilities to create the visual elements that you need, whether it's photo, video, etc. So it's really attractive to buy into stock photos. Here's my big cautionary tale to you, though, is make sure you really know that you're getting the proper permissions for use of a photo. The classic copyright infringement situation that we see isn't necessarily me heading over to your Instagram, Eric, grabbing off a photo and using it. Often it's a third party, such as maybe Adobe. Yeah, Adobe, please don't turn mine off. Adobe or any of these other stock companies, especially these free stock sites that you see, ones where they're more crowdsourced. Anybody can upload a photo and say they have permissions, and you may think that it's legit because you're paying this money or you're agreeing to the terms of this site and getting to use that photo. There's great risk. You can still be liable for copyright infringement. And if that photograph is registered, because in the United States you don't have to register your photographs to have the legal protections, but if it is registered, you're looking at a potential damages of up to $150,000 per image, plus attorney's fees, which could be a whole another $50,000, $75,000. That's their attorney's fees. That's the person's of the works that you infringed upon that you may have to pay, and your own. So it can become that $5, $20 stock photo. I know how easy it is and how attractive it is to get onto a stock site, but you could be looking at having to pay a lot. The other side of it is, and like I said, I get it. I completely empathize with you guys. Before I was even an attorney, I've been an entrepreneur for many years. I run multiple businesses, and visual aesthetics are very important, especially in today's social media. And it's just so attractive to log on and download. But if you can go out there and you either can get to know who the seller of the site is, so you know them directly, you know it's their work, or if you can hire your own photographer, that's one of the best ways to go about it. You also then have more original works too, but then you have the ease of mind when it comes to knowing that you do have the proper permission. So just know, don't use a photo if you don't have permission, and make sure that the person giving you permission actually has permission to give to you, or else you could still end up being liable. Now, to answer your question though, as far as watermarking everything, I'm kind of on the fence of this. The lawyer side of me says yes, watermark it, because then if a watermark is removed, that shows intent. If it's removed, we also have specific damages outlined in federal copyright law. Whether your photo is registered or not, you can automatically demand a certain amount. But the other side of me as the entrepreneur and as the marketer knows that it can be an eyesore sometimes. So for me, I think just the big thing is start. And we can't even fit all the copyright information into this video. Lots of podcast episodes about it of mine. But just know the copyright laws, have the proper permissions if you're using someone else's. And if you're creating it, taking all the steps such as registering the photograph and keeping monitoring of the web for other usage, especially if you're not going to watermark it. I'm not against watermarking it. I've seen some very tastefully done ones. I just don't of mine. That's just a preference that I've made. And I know the risks of not watermarking it.
That's kind of where I'm at with watermarking. I know the risks. Sometimes I do it. Depends on if I'll lay it down this way. If it's my photo and I took it, you're dang right. It's going to have my name on it, especially if we're out and I took it with my camera and I did and I didn't hire anybody to do it. It's funny. I'll do it then. But the folks we hire, we always hire. We have, I think, how many photographers? We have like 2 photographers on staff. And their whole, like, we pay them. It's not a huge amount, but it's the best thing we've ever done. Mm-hmm. What are your photos? I have their direct. It's never been posted anywhere else publicly. It comes into me. We pay for it. We have a contract. That's the one thing I could say you attorneys are really good about that I've learned in business.
Yes.
Especially being a business owner now, almost 6 years running this and several others, everything has a contract. And I know when I first started, and I know people who've run major conferences without running with contracts. And I'm like, you are like, and I remember telling one person, and who was a friend, loved him to death. I was like, man, and I get it. Everything kind of happened. It landed in your lap and you're going. And I love your thoughts on this. You have to slow down and do all of legal paperwork. I can tell you, I've dealt with it as a business owner. I know lots of business owners who deal with angry customers, clients who, my feeling is very Silicon Valley on contracts. You signed it, you better read it, because I know there's nothing that I signed. I don't know, maybe because I was in the military, but trust me, I read my entire enlistment contract. Like, I wanted to make sure I wasn't turning children over and I could eventually get out of the military. It's just like signing for your car, anything that you're responsible for, anything you're putting money on, read your contract, because I don't want to hear, 7 months later, oh, I'm upset. Well, did you read your contract? Because that's... like, it's covered right there. So businesses should, like, their first priority, like, I'm going to go start a business. A lot of people doing that. 40 million people, unfortunately, unemployed in our country. So a lot of people starting businesses, which is great. Not going to knock it. Contracts. Besides calling you for support and help, which what I would suggest to do. When people call me, go, what do I do for legal contracts? I'm like, I got a few friends that you should call. Pay them all the money in the world. Don't go be that. I saw your post. That's why I'm bringing it up. You made a post about creating your own contracts, which are like copy and paste, bolt on, guilty as charged. We've actually had contracts that look like that. They were stolen from 3 other contracts. And you're just like, not legal at all. But they're cute. They look good. They look legally. But so what's your thoughts on businesses? Like, priority 1, what's the most important thing that they go out and do when they're starting after the business plan, putting their legal paperwork together? Like, how do they get going with that process? Because contracts are important. That's how we make money. And we want to protect ourselves because we don't want people to take that money that we're given and then be like, hey, we could take it away. We know there's people in the world that do that. So how does a business kind of go down that in a Cliff Notes version? Because if they want more information, they just need to call you. But give the Cliff Notes version of that.
I'm laughing just because my most recent TikTok video was me evaluating someone's DIY contract going, this ish don't make no sense because it's true. But I'll tell you what, and this is something why I have my brands that I've been pushing out this prevention. You want to prevent issues, you want to protect yourself. And the ways to do that is to contracts work in a couple of ways. You're setting the legal foundation for the relationship that you're having with the other person. Whether you're running an e-commerce site or you're doing one-to-one personal services, no matter what it is, it's creating that legal relationship. It's defining who has what obligation and responsibility, etc. But beyond that, and this is really the entrepreneur part of me, is that they help to get everyone on the same page. Literally, like you're on the same contract page, but you're making sure that you and the other person have fully understood what you guys are getting into bed about. Like, what is it going to be about? Because the majority of legal issues that I see, besides people with DIY contracts or no contracts at all, is from a breakdown in miscommunication. Often it's not because you didn't just show up to a speaking gig and so you're being sued or something like that. It's often a lot of little miscommunication things. So a contract, from a practical standpoint, can make sure you're on the same page, not just legally, but so that you have a good working business relationship and you can hammer everything out. Anyways, yeah, so you can hammer everything out before you get into bed together. I was going to make kind of like the joke, you want to ask the person's name before you get into bed with them, right? And so you want to know what, hopefully a little bit of what they're about before you get into bed. And that's exactly what contracts can provide. I also love, especially for newer entrepreneurs, contracts from a practical standpoint can be the no man for you, because newer entrepreneurs, or those that are afraid to say no to clients or customers in their business because they're afraid to lose business or backlash, will cave. They'll give in, they'll become a doormat to things that they don't necessarily want to give up. Well, a contract can be that structural backbone for you. It also can be like the movie Liar Liar with Jim Carrey. He gets pulled over for speeding and he's trying to lie when he's like, the cop says, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" And he tries to say no, but he goes yes instead of no. I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs, whenever customers try to push the boundaries of things, do exactly what Jim Carrey did in that movie. They can't say no, so they end up giving in, and then they're not happy about what they gave in on. They could also lose money, etc. So contracts do all that for you, but also, probably most importantly, and you kind of touched on it, they save you money. One of the classic things that we see all the time at the law firm, I own my own law firm as well, is that they'll try to DIY a contract, they'll cobble it together because they don't want to pay the couple $100 up front, and then they end up getting sued, and they end up spending tens of thousands of dollars defending that contract and still end up paying that couple $100 to fix the contract later.
Yep. That's true. That's funny you touch on that. It drove me to my next favorite thing that I've heard a lot about. And we put it in our contract a long time ago. Obviously, we work in national media, as everyone knows. It's what we do. It's a different beast for a whole different day. I mean, trust me, we put it in, and I'll tell the story to you. You're the attorney here, so you'll probably get a chuckle out of it. We put in a force majeure clause in our contract because a lot of things happen in the news that we don't control. A few years ago, the Parkland shooting took place. We had 2 clients who were due to go on TV following morning. One of them, total understanding, amazing human being. The second person instead threw a temper tantrum like you would have never seen. "Why am I not on talking about my Etsy brand?" And I'm like, bruh, like 16 people, children, were just gunned down viciously in a high school. You're probably not going to go on. And led to a big, ugly battle that had to be settled. And, we didn't have the force majeure in there, which burned us. We put it in immediately thereafter, and it's been great. Now, I've seen a lot of businesses in 2020 start running and going to force majeures. We have one. It's protected us. Our clients are very happy. Anybody watching who's a client can raise their hand and say that. They see it in there. I bring it up, actually. And 2 questions in one. One, do you bring that up? Should you make sure in 2020, if someone's going through an agreement, okay, actually 3 questions in one. So, sorry. It became 3 as my brain works through this question. One of the big ones is do you have to do they have to hunt for it in the contract, or should you be like, hey, we have a force majeure in there that protects us? I do it because I work in media, so I feel it's like a safety net because it's explained to me by my great publicist, shout out Jay Jones, and anyone else that I work with. I see that in the media. Other people, I know other brands deal with this also. Delivery times, apparel companies I know deal with this because they get their product from China. That's a whole nother topic. That takes a while to get here. That goes with our Tuesday show. But, what do businesses do? Do people have to, do we have to tell them what's in the contract, or do they have to go read it? 2, force majeure, feelings on that. And 3, or we covered if we say, hey, we got a force majeure and people see it. It does buy sometimes. Do the courts even care about force majeures, or are they just like, force majeures cover a lot because you could be like, it's a national disaster. COVID-19 is an international disaster of epic proportions. So thoughts on those three crazy questions? I know they're all kind of like stacked on each other. I could come back and repeat any of them if you need them.
Yeah, I may need you to. So force majeure, for those that don't understand what Eric's referring to, is a provision in the contract, and it can be drafted in a variety of ways, but it's a provision that allows for the discharge of any further responsibilities or certain responsibilities in the contract. You can be one-sided, it can be two-sided. I am because I have such an entrepreneurial side of me, and because I work with a lot of business owners, I'm more of the mindset that contracts should be fairly well balanced. And many states vary dependent upon this. Some states allow for a one-sided contract that favors one party more than the other. Other states don't, which is another reason not to draft your own contract, because you don't know what your state is going to be for that, amongst many other things. So for force majeure, yes, I do think that needs to be in there. One thing that the practice I've always taken is you don't just want to hang your hat on force majeure, because we've seen a lot of issues that people didn't necessarily have force majeure this year in their contracts during COVID, but they also didn't have any other sorts of like cancellation provisions either. One of the other issues we've seen during COVID is, and I think we're going to start seeing a lot more changes about this. I mean, the legal community's like brains exploded over force majeure and pandemic this year, is the use, how we're going to use them, the application of them, and when can they truly be triggered, especially if they're not drafted very well. Because one thing that we've seen in COVID is, when did force majeure actually get triggered? Was it before we were all sheltered in place? Okay, is it in phase 1? Is it in phase 2 of reopening? Like at what level? And that's why I'm more the proponent of having a broader cancellation provision as well, or some other like catch-all provision in there to help the relationship. As far as, I don't remember your other questions.
There's a lot of them there. I think you answered them all in one, which is pretty cool.
I did.
You did. That's why you're incredible. That's why we have you on the show, because Rachel can answer questions. That's good, because it gave me time to come up with my next favorite question. Because while we're sitting here, my Twitter's going off, so I had to look down and see what it was. So we see on, so it's a legal question. You'll love it. So we've heard in the last few weeks, I know you and I see eye to eye on this because we both have posted photos wearing these. And no, it's not the dress.
I'm really scared where you're going right now.
It's the dress you wore just the other day on social when you post. No, just kidding. I wasn't talking about that.
I was saying, wait, what?
No. That's called a failed joke. That's what that looks like. Crickets. Cue the crickets in post. But I'm talking about mass. Mass, and mass. See, you were wondering, we were both wearing the same thing. Yes, see, I did that. I'll be here all weekend. Don't eat the veal. But if I made it, we don't even eat veal.
Oh,
so
mass.
But mass. A lot of us know and understand. Dr. Shah, who was on our show on Tuesday, stated, "Masks are not for you. They are to prevent help. They're for other people. They help other people. So you're truly helping other Americans." Now, some of our friends and fellow Americans who also wear hats that say MAGA on them believe that they have some constitutional right, or covered under some unknown section of something I've read multiple times in my life, that they don't have to wear a mask, that their freedoms are being infringed upon. And I heard this morning. You'll like this. This is how the Jews felt before they were shipped off to their camps. True statement said by someone today on social media. So, legally, wearing a mask, yes, the states can order us. I live in a state that does it, and I think it's great because we can still go eat in restaurants. We can still go grocery shopping. My teenager can tell you she has no problem wearing a mask to go to the mall because her and her friends will wear them. You don't have to wear them when you're running, Pelotoning. You don't have to wear them then. Wear them because business stays open. The ultimate thing that everyone says on the right that wears those hats, we need the businesses open. Wear a mask. Don't go around without a mask on. Legally, wearing a mask, do these folks have any stance on it's infringing on their constitutional freedom, which we hear all the time?
No. And I also don't think that it reconciles with the logic, exactly what you just said. Yes, and honestly, this is something that really scares me for many small business owners and just our society in general right now. You and I are very lucky to be able to work from home. And even though we've been pared down, we can't travel to speak as much and all of that, I'm still really lucky that I'm able to do what I can do. I can't imagine being in a situation where my livelihood depends on the country being open or closed, which further would make me even more frustrated and pissed off. And I am frustrated and pissed off. You see, my voice gets deep, my face gets red, because what are you doing? You're worried about your constitutional right for what? 30 minutes when you wear a mask? What about a kid not being able to eat because everything gets shut back down and incomes are not being made?
Yeah, it's
I didn't really answer your question. I just kind of went.
No, that's true. No, because we're going to keep deep diving on this one. I love this one because it's so important, because people don't get it. Everybody is so, wearing a mask 30 minutes is like Dr. Shaw said. He has to wear it. I mean, it's even recently they finally came off of wearing 3 masks, triple gown to do surgery. He's a cardiologist. You think that he wants to drip with sweat every time he's sitting in a very cold ER and he says it feels like it's 120 in there? No, but if they have to do it and we're complaining, well, I want to go. Well, if you want to go to the store and get groceries and keep the economy going, wear your mask. It's not like, I don't care if it doesn't look good on you, and you wear it over your nose. I know our commander-in-chief failed doing that. I don't know, with all those awesome soldiers at Walter Reed, God bless them, all wearing theirs correctly. It's really easy when you look at a photo and all of a sudden you start singing that song from when I was a little bit younger. One of these kids is doing their own thing. I mean, it's like, if you remember, I don't know how the media let it go, but 2 weeks before that, he said he looks ridiculous in one. He actually looks like the Lone Ranger. And I'm like, bro, it goes over your face, not your eyes. I'll help you along with wearing your mask. But let's talk about the next subject. You've mentioned a couple times you have 5 children. We have 4. 2 of them are school age still. The Trump administration is talking about forcing states to send our children, our pride and joy, our flesh and blood. You have to go to school. You have to. You could go cram them in there. And we're part of the process here in Oregon. They involve us. We're going to attend a virtual meeting tomorrow. So far, what we're seeing is an amazing plan that does have our children safely going back to school a minimum of 2 days a week, and an amazing plan to, if things get better, we can slowly integrate everybody, and then we go back to a more normal school time. Mm-hmm. I like that plan. As an American, I like it because these are my babies. These are mine. I don't care what you do with your doofy-looking crew there that all have the last name Trump. I don't care about you. Your people aren't my people's problems. These are my people. They live in my house, just like they're yours. What's your thoughts on children going back to school? How do we do this safely? And will this turn into a legal battle that states will end up fighting the government over? I mean, personally, I don't see it because I see all the governors except for, hold on. Guess what state agrees with the president? Hold on. Can you guess?
Florida.
Oh my God! Good job. How did you know? I mean,
I was gonna say Texas because Texas kind of.
But Florida does its own. Florida's like whatever you want, President Trump. Whatever you want. You want to have your conference here? Bring everybody here. Don't wear a mask. It's cool. Go to the beach. We're cool. Go golf. Do whatever you want to do. But do you think this is going to turn into something ugly, where this is actually pitting us parents versus officially against the White House? I mean. Because
I think it's even deeper than that. I mean, we have to look, if you talk about legal issues, we're not just looking at it from can Trump do that, but we also have to look at what are the legal and safety issues for the teachers, bus drivers, cafeteria workers, administrators, the nurses. I mean, are our resources going to be so taxed, financially taxed too, but it's a much deeper issue. What happens if a kid pops hot for COVID in a classroom? Does that teacher then have to quarantine for 2 weeks? What happens to the rest of the kids, et cetera? Like, it's a whole thing. Yeah. And it just shows you that, there are so many issues with this. Do I know the answer? No. I'm still trying to figure out what we want to do. We have kind of a similar plan. They're either telling us that the kids can go all online or do the hybrid 2 days a week thing. And I'm immunocompromised, and I am lucky that I can work from home, so I can homeschool the kids and facilitate that if I want to do that. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. Going back to the legal aspect, I just don't see. Obviously, I try to give the school districts credit that they haven't faced something like this before. So I'm trying to give benefit of the doubt that they have thought through all these things, legal issues, not just constitutionally or what the governor is putting on them, but are the school districts thinking about their teachers and as well as the students, all their staff. And I have already been getting inquiries at the law firm from local teachers who are concerned because they're saying, can I get out of my contract? Or what happens with this? What happens with that? And it's all a big question mark right now.
And it's unfortunate because, we want our kids to go to school, obviously, these big schools that are paid for by taxpayer money. We want them to go back. We want everybody to be safe. And I don't understand what the struggle is. Just like you, we can teach from home. I mean, ours are a little bit older. I mean, we have an almost 16-year-old. She wants to enjoy it. A lot of our household for wanting to go back and do the hybrid at least 2 days a week is one's an 8th grader, so he wants to enjoy being top dog. And the other is a junior who is concerned about college. I mean, obviously, finishing out a school year where everything was either pass or fail and everybody got a high GPA. If you passed, which she was very angry about because she's like, look, I worked for this.
Me too.
I'm going to school. She didn't get a track season. I mean, I'm very proud of my daughter and her dreams, but I know a lot of kids are going through this. So we have to be safe. And you're right. It's not just the students and the teachers. It's the bus drivers, the admin, the security folks, everybody who keeps our children safe. We have to be aware of them. So it is going to be interesting. I personally think we should use way more caution than just go back, because remember we were told this thing in late April by Jared, not Jared the jeweler, who I would trust way more than Jared Krutchner, but Jared's the jeweler. I'm like, dude, yeah, you probably make really good diamonds. The son-in-law Jared is like, we're cool, we fixed it, we're good, we're going back. By July we'll be business as usual. And instead I'm like, almost 16,000 reported COVID cases yesterday, Florida. No, you just beat South Korea in one day. Good job. At least you're winning at something. So.
Well, and my other thing is too, I feel like we need to have some consistency. I'm torn. There are many families and households that need to be able to go back to work, and they're not going to be able to financially pay for someone to watch their children, which can also be further exposure. But what happens when schools have to be shut back down again? I mean, I don't know if they are, but if we keep going on this track, are we going to be back where we were a couple months ago? Everything shut down again? I just want consistency, and I know it's hard. Not everyone has the right answer. It's just like what we were talking about with PR earlier. No matter what is put out, you're going to have support, you're going to have backlash. I think that families just need to do what's best for them. I am of the mindset that I don't think 1 year of school is necessarily going to skewer a kid's education. I think of how many weeks they spend watching movies around the holidays at the end of the year, right? Yeah, right. I think, though, the point you brought up, if you're looking at students that are going to be competing for colleges, and of course I want my kids to have interaction, but I just think that safety is number one right now. Whatever that looks like, we all need to be able to make our own individual choice.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that's the most important thing. Those of us, we do want our children to interact. I mean, it sucks not having sports for them. I know they like it. They miss it. It's been very weird not having a basketball season in our house. We have a basketball player and we play summer hoop. That doesn't exist. We can't even have practices. I mean, barely the NBA can have practices. I mean, just this morning we had a rash of COVID-19 positive tests pop up in the NBA. Positive tests over the weekend with MLS where more people they actually delayed a Major League Soccer game on Sunday due to a inconclusive test, and they erred on the side of caution.
Good.
I mean, I think that's where we need to be, but I know there's a lot of criticism because here you have the NBA on lockdown, yet Walt Disney World's wide open.
Well, NBA is also at Disney World, and they're complaining about staying at the Grand Floridian, these big babies. But that's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole nother topic, and we don't pick on the NBA too much on this show. We work a lot with them, so we don't pick on the NBA too much.
I like the NBA.
Yeah, we like the NBA a lot. I mean, I like what they're doing, the whole Black Lives Matter thing, changing their names on their jerseys. I love that. So here's my last question for you. Probably it's not off topic. It's a legal issue that I'm concerned about that will become an increasing issue come August. Unless Congress and the Senate passes this extension to a lot of people's unemployment by the end of this month, this extra money that has kept people paying their rent, paying their bills, their medical, is kaput. I know one side of the House wants to do that because they just love living in chaos. And the other side actually wants, shocking, Democrats looking out for people. I mean, it's weird how that is kind of what they do. They actually want the bill, which I don't blame them. We need it. We haven't fixed unemployment. It's still rocket high in the economy, no matter what day you look on. It depends on the hour you look at the economy. And the stock market doesn't do anything for most of us. Sorry, average Americans aren't like playing Wall Street. They are thinking more of their safety, and they can't spend that kind of money. So my long rant here is this: people start not being able to pay rent, which will become another pandemic of sorts. Yeah. What can people do to protect themselves? Because you know that some landlords won't care. I mean, you just know that there's those folks. Every New Yorker's like, yeah, meet my landlord. But some other people have really cool landlords that understand. I know my daughter, 23, is in constant communication. She worked for a retail company that has been very horrible about telling any of their employees how they're coming back to work. And they're a huge chain. It's very difficult to spend money with them right now just because I don't understand retail, so I'm not going to try to bash them too much. But, she's going to lose that. And now, I don't want to pay her rent. That's just not what I signed up for. But, I mean, if I have to, obviously. But what can people do? What is, I mean, not that you handle this kind of law, but, like, what are some... I mean, I looked it up before I asked this question to you. I know 97% of cases nationwide, if a landlord or a property manager goes up against a regular human in a courtroom over an eviction, that other team's winning because they just know the law, and no matter how much you study and stand there, judge doesn't give a crap about you. You don't know all the lawyery stuff. I mean, you can watch Law and Order. Apparently that works, but... I don't know. I'm just going to yell a lot. That's what I've seen on TV. Is that what you do? No, just kidding. Don't answer that one.
Yeah, just watch Law and Order.
Just watch Law and Order. That's what you did, right? You're like, shit. That's what I did, Eric. You figured me out. I built this law practice off of Law and Order and TikTok. So let's talk about it, and we'll have you back on if this becomes an issue. I'd love to have. I always like having you on. We'd like to have you on at least once a month for legal questions, because between you and Richard Herman, who gets all fired up as a defense attorney. I love him, by the way. My favorite little CNN legal analyst. He gets all, woo. Don't ask him about Trump. He'll tell you. It'll be 45 minutes later when he's done. He'll be red in the face and needing a bourbon. What can people do? Like, how do you protect yourself? If you're a renter, you don't have steady income, and now this money goes away, are the courts even open? Like, are they doing business as usual in the courts?
It depends on the state, and that's actually going to be the answer also here, whether you are residential or commercial. We do a lot of commercial leases because we primarily work with business owners. But residential, luckily, I say it with air quotes, has more protections than a commercial space would. Like, you don't, if you check for, and this even is outside of pandemic, you go and check and find what the Residential Renters Tenant Act in your state, some variation of those words for your state, you have a lot of rights. It's really kind of harder to evict people out of residential space than is commercial. Commercial, you could show up and all your stuff be gone, right? And you're completely thrown out. Residential, not as a quick of a process, but I have been keeping tabs on the residential side. I've been talking intimately with a lot of other attorneys. I mean, during pandemic, I've dug more into attorneys groups for this reason, and I'm seeing that a lot of the states have been putting out directives and relief available to renters, residential renters specifically, not so much for commercial businesses and leases. But it's a rock and hard place type of situation. I would hope that there's landlords that want to be human, but also understand those landlords need to cover the cost of that building as well. That may be their income as well. So it is very difficult. My biggest recommendation is going to be keep watching, keep your ear to the ground, and see. We can keep tabs on it here too of what the states are allowing for relief. But this is going to sound very cheesy, but also start writing to the local political offices in your area and start putting pressure on them, because they're the ones that are going to be able to make the orders. They've been allowing, was it in New York, I believe, there's been a couple of states that have done this where it would not allow for evictions to occur back at the height of everything back in like April or May. They were staying evictions. So how did that happen? Because there was voices that were asking for this, and so in order to help protect, I think that'd be a really good thing. Now that I've talked about it, I'm actually going to reach out to a couple residential lease attorneys and see if they can put out some resources, and if we get that up, I'll get that over to you.
Oh yeah, because we'll share that, and I totally give you guys credit for it, because I think that's important. It's one of my biggest concerns we have, and I think that's going to lead to a lot of mental health issues, because we all know, we're both married, this fact of, I can only imagine any couple who is barely making it and counting on this money, and counting on their home and counting on these things, and for it to risk going away causes undue stress. You're already trapped in your house. Your kids have to see it. It just makes for bad. And people don't look at it that way. Usually the people making the laws have way too much money anyways, and they're like, we're cool. And I just think it's something that we're going to, I hope we do the right thing and extend it to at least the end of the year.
Agreed.
We need to do it. I don't care. I'll pay extra taxes. You heard it here first. I have no problem doing it if it means it keeps food on people's table, because we do it the other way and we're going to have a big problem on our hands. We're going to have people sleeping on, we already have a lot of cities around America have a huge homeless problem. Now you're going to have whole families out there, no school, no Wi-Fi. I mean, and that's a whole nother subject we can bring you back for, the Wi-Fi laws in our country, where free Wi-Fi is supposed to be provided, and yet it's controlled by two of the biggest in the world, and they don't share very well, and their signals are purposely avoiding communities of color, any diversity. That's a whole nother issue, but we'll bring you back for that one. We've gone down enough rabbit holes today. We don't need to keep going down them. But Rachel, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Before you go, like I tell everybody, plug away so folks know to get you. By the way, everybody, if you don't catch what Rachel says, as always, if you're watching this on YouTube, it's in the description. You can follow Rachel. If you have legal questions, do not ask me. I am not the attorney here. See, Rachel is the attorney. Ask her all your legal questions. Don't come to me with it. We'll bring Rachel back on. I know that her and I, we chat quite often, so we'll make sure your questions get answered. But plug away, tell folks how they can reach you and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so before I pitch into that where you guys can find me, I just want to say that I understand that I'm in a position that it's kind of hard for me to answer the questions that you asked me today, Eric, because I'm not necessarily one that's looking at being homeless next month. Understand that I empathize, and if you have any feedback, any recommendations that I can make to use my platform to get more word out, to help improve, recommendations for other people that may be going through the same situation, please feel free to reach out to me. As far as on the legal side, you can ask away. I'm RachelBrenke.com. I'm Rachel Brenke on every single platform, including TikTok, of course. So you guys feel free to reach out. My team and I both manage the social media, so I'll end up seeing the messages. And if you have very specific legal issues, if you go to RachelBrenke.com, you'll see the link for the law firm, and you can submit directly through there. But if you just want conversation, we can help get you guys resources. And yeah, I think that's about it.
Ooh, you did great. Look at that. You're awesome. So I want to thank you for joining us, and everybody else will be right back after these messages. Thank you for watching this episode of To The Point. As always, I'm your host, Eric Mitchell, and we thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, if you know someone that we should be interviewing on our show, or you'd like to be a guest on our show, feel free to email us at hello@tothepointtv.com. We'd love to have you as a guest on our show. Please go ahead and feel free to follow us on Twitter at ToThePointTV. We'd love to see you on Twitter. Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram. We're huge fans of Instagram here at To The Point. So give us a follow at To The Point, and a like and a share so you can see the guests that are coming up on IG. And that is at ToThePointTV. It's not .com. It's just at ToThePointTV. So confusing with all these names taken. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, you know what we're going to get ready to go. But before you do that, if you're a fan of Facebook and you spend a lot of time on there, go give our Facebook page a like and a follow and share it with your friends. And keep in mind, if you can't get to your YouTube, you can always watch us live at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern weekdays. We appreciate to see you there. And as always, my favorite peeps, you're here on the YouTube, and we love you here on YouTube. So make sure that you drop in and you can see every episode and never miss an episode. Right? Because if you smash that subscribe button, give it a like, and flick that bell, you flick that bell, you get notified before everyone else when we drop the latest episode or subscription. And as a reminder, all of our segments and shows go live weekdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. So you will be the first to catch them, and you don't want to miss them. Go check out our library. They are broken down by hashtags, so you will never miss an episode. On behalf of our entire team here at To The Point, we want to thank you for tuning in, because if it wasn't for viewers like you, we wouldn't have a show. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, I'm your host, Eric Mitchell. Be safe, be strong, be smart, and God bless America.
get to the point.